one of the greatest indicators of who I am is not what I do, but what I want. Man looks at what people do and what I do, and I judge myself for that, and I label myself for that. But wait a second, what do I actually want? For example, I really struggle with drug use or pornography use. Because I struggle with that, it means I'm a bad person. But what I really want, I don't want to do that anymore. And so that means something about who I am. A powerful exercise, if you really want to feel and tap into that, is
acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the emotional blueprint.
Let's transition a little bit and dive into some spiritual lessons, or spiritual teachings, I should say. I think probably one of the most powerful things that has become so clear to me as a therapist, and really putting everything I have into trying to help people to grow and to change, is that you just cannot separate the emotional and the spiritual. You can try, and that's fine, but they really are one and the same. Well, why? Well, the sooner we can really get in touch with this truth that all emotions are coming from our own soul, our own spirit, this beautiful place of truth, we realize that emotional growth is spiritual growth, and spiritual growth is emotional growth. Why has this had such a big impact on me, and why does this have such a big impact on other people? Because it starts to help them. The more they start to listen to their emotions, the more their fog begins to clear. Because remember, negative emotions are internal fog. And so imagine you looking at a mirror, but there's fog between you and the mirror. You cannot quite see yourself for who you really are. Don't get me wrong, you can have these moments where you really feel something or have an experience where, like, whoa, like there is a really a pure and a whole, like my true self really is pure and whole, but my body is not. And so you can have these moments of that while the pain is still there, but then the pain is going to pull us out of that, or thoughts are going to pull us out of that pretty quickly. So this letting go and listening to our emotions becomes this beautiful process of clearing the fog. And it's such a relief. Not only does weight leave us, but we really start to see our spirit for what it is. And what is our spirit? It's really hard for people to, I think, I don't know, it's hard, but it can be a process for people to really hold on to this truth, that my spirit is whole. Like it's whole. Like there's nothing. It's just complete. Naturally, what people say is like, okay, if my deeper self or my true self is already complete, then what's the point of working hard, or what's the point of working on myself? Isn't that going to lead to some complacency? I think it definitely can initially, if it's something that's new to you. But any spiritual teacher or Buddhist or anyone that's actualized in this space, what they will tell you is once you are in that space of wholeness more and connecting with your spirit more, not only is that space whole, but in that space is a natural um inclination to do good and to influence others for good and to fulfill your purpose. So the more you're in that space, yes, that's where peace is found, and it's connected to God and the universe, whatever, in nature. Uh, but it's a place of contentment, but it's also with contentment naturally comes that call. If our spirit's already whole, what is the point of working so hard on letting go of my emotions and getting my mind right and managing my thoughts and all that stuff and being present? The nature of all of our spirits is not only wholeness, but it is thirsting after progression. Well, why does it need to progress? It's already whole. Well, it is trying to grow in light. It is trying to I think a beautiful way you could view it is you are a vessel of light. Our spirit is whole and pure, but it is wanting to collect and develop more light. And so it's this beautiful purification process. Our spirit's already pure, but obviously our physical, our natural man, the ego, the physical state is not. We're already whole, but this process of developing more, growing in light is trying to integrate this pure self into a very impure body and emotional and mental space. And so this challenge of doing that is the process of growing in light, and so that we can comprehend all things, and so we can see things with even greater vision, and have these beautiful spiritual gifts to help other people. It's what always has made sense to me is our spirit is pure and whole, but it's not full. It doesn't have all of the light. It is connected to the source of all light, the great source of truth. That light and truth is going to come in, but we have to go through this purification process of letting go and clearing out this fog. There's a visual, without getting lost in that too much, there's a visual I really like that describes, that I think kind of breaks this down maybe in a more simple way. A really cool way to view yourself is, I want to talk about the 3 layers of who we are. What are the layers? Well, the first layer, of the most surface layer of who we are, is our thoughts. We've talked about this. This is the space that we cannot control. This is the space of chaos. This is the space of negativity or evil constantly having access to. It's like it's like the lobby of an office that is full of negativity and chaos and just craziness. There also is good that comes from obviously thinking, though, like solving problems, and it's, we obviously use that for good as well. Okay, so the first layer of who we are is thoughts. I want to go through these layers and talk about the fear that people have going deeper. Now, why is going deeper and being still and connecting with our spirit so important? Well, it's because that is the space where we can grow in light, where we can find our purpose, where we can see ourselves for who we are. It's kind of everything that we righteously desire is found in that space. And so it's important to be able to have access to it. Okay, so why are people stuck in the first layer? So the fear that I see in a lot of people is why there's some people that they believe who they are is their thoughts. And so they're always just in their first layer. They are very unaware of what they're feeling emotionally, which is the second layer. And then obviously they're really disconnected from knowing who they really are, their true self of wholeness and God and whatever that looks like. So it can be so frustrating if we know people like this or friends that are just always thinking, well, why are they not able to go deeper to their emotions? Well, fear is a big part of this. What are they afraid of? Well, if I don't constantly distract myself with thoughts or shows or busyness, then negative feelings are going to emerge. Discomfort is going to be there. And they're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. So we see this a lot with this is distraction. We distract ourselves. Why do we do that? Because we don't actually want to feel or or look at what's deeper. Again, is this the path to go? No. Like it talks about in Joseph Campbell's book, this leads to a gradual disintegration. This leads to our backpack just getting heavier and heavier in our life until we collapse and die. Very sad story for many people, unfortunately. How do we go past the first layer? Well, this is what stillness is so valuable. Stillness represents I'm going to intentionally go a little bit deeper by not thinking. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go on a walk and I'm just going to be fully aware of what I'm experiencing and just try to calm myself and be still. That can pretty quickly, if we're not too overwhelmed or stressed, or that can pretty quickly get access to the second layer of who we are, which is physically, this is where our breath is. The awareness of the breath is powerful in almost, especially in Buddhism. But this second layer is also where our emotions are. The goal is to be able to have access and to feel our true self and to see our true self. So a lot of people don't know there's something behind their emotions. Again, people believe that they are their thoughts, that their identity is their thoughts. People believe their identity is how they're feeling. So when they feel really horrible about themselves, they actually believe that that means something about who they are. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. Or I have anxiety. That's who I am. I am bipolar. I am a rude person. Okay. A lot of these labels they can be thoughts, but they only go emotionally deep. Okay. So what's the fear that people have about going beyond that? Well, if I let go of this anxiety, or if I let go of this depression, who is going to be the person underneath that? Like, who really is down there? What if I am just so disappointed that I let go of my depression or I let go of my anxiety and there's just a loser down there? There's just some big fat loser. Or I just don't, is there anything down there? What if there's nothing? Okay. I totally get that. Biblical passage I think is really powerful. It says, man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh at the heart. So the heart is a symbol of our deeper self, our spirit. This is what God or the universe sees. This is what our spirit is connected to, is God or the universe. So the heart, one of the things that some people might find helpful, this is kind of an intellectual exercise, so it's going to be limiting, is this exercise of like, one of the greatest indicators of who I am is not what I do, but what I want. This is what that scripture means. Man looks at what people do and what I do, and I judge myself for that, and I label myself for that. But wait a second, what do I actually want? For example, I really struggle with drug use or pornography use. Because I struggle with that, it means I'm a bad person. But what I really want, I don't want to do that anymore. And so that means something about who I am. Okay. So a powerful exercise, if you really want to feel and tap into that, is what are the things that I want in my life? And what does that mean about who my deeper self is? For example, the thing that I care the most about in my life is helping people not go through the same suffering that I went through. I went through a lot of suffering um, in my 20s, and to some degree, even still now. I'm not, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. Far from it. There's this deep, strong desire to help people. If I can do anything to help alleviate some of that suffering, I want. Like, this is a deep part of who I am spiritually. On a deeper level, that's who my spirit is. So what does that mean about my spirit? Well, it means some cool things. Oh, I think, if this was me or you relate with something like that, it means there's like my spirit is actually made of some love and caring. So that's good to know. But when it comes to these layers and actually um, knowing who we are or knowing our worth, there's no greater way to know your worth. There's nothing better you can do than actually have an experience. And so if you can find the stillness, get past the thoughts, the second layer, if you have some difficult emotions that are coming up in that space, you do need to gain some knowledge. That's the value of this podcast, is you can start to let go and free yourself of those completely. But if there's a bunch of stuff there now for you, I want to talk about this experience. So 2 minutes of stillness to get past the thoughts. You do need to address your emotions to some degree by saying, like, hey, it's got to be genuine. Like, hey, anxiety and sadness, I know that you're in that. I know that you're there. But I believe it's going to be really helpful for me to know who I am and what my worth is. And so I'm in the process of learning how to listen to you, and I'm going to do my best in the future. I want to be able to feel and know who I am on a deeper level. Who am I? So that, in many cases, can satisfy the second layer, that there can be a door open up. And then what I recommend people doing, there's many ways to do this, but one of the most relatable ways seems to be visualization. Close your eyes, pay attention to your breath, which is still in that second layer, and then try to see or feel the person that is behind the breath. I remember doing this experience with one of my clients who's just an awesome, awesome guy. It's one of my favorites. We did this cool visual where when he was still and closing his eyes, I was doing kind of a guided meditation with him. And during this guided meditation, I described his spirit as like a very large room. And he started walking around in the room. And I had him go into one of the side rooms. We're just kind of creating this. And in the room, there was a box. And he opened the box. And in that box was a piece of paper. And that piece of paper listed all of the qualities that make up who he really is. And he started reading that list, and he was just doing this in his mind. And when we finished this, he said some really beautiful things afterwards. But one of the things he said, Corey, oh my gosh, that was so powerful. And he was so funny because he was saying that as if like I was somehow had anything to do with that. It was all him, but he said, wow, that was powerful. And I said, do you know why that was powerful? And he said, why? It's like, I said, because you're powerful. So the holiness of God or the universe is trying to realize itself in us and through us and as us. They're deeply connected. Now, to get that light, though, to grow in that light, we have to be in that space and allow the great teacher, the universe. I love the Native American view of this, of like Mother Nature can give us light. Mother can give us light, and so can Father. And so there's these great sources of light, and our spirit is so thirsty for that, and it just wants to collect it and grow. And the body that starts to become full of light begins to start to comprehend all things. So this experience with this client, though, he had this experience like, wow, I actually am. And he is a very powerful and strong person. So what we experience in that space, you can do a mini meditation, look for who you are in that space. Don't look for who you are. How many people are looking for who they are in their relationship, or looking for who they are in their bank account, or looking for who they are in the world, or looking for who they are in playing golf? I'm just giving golf a hard time today. Yeah, that's not where we find out who we are. People, don't get me wrong, people can say things and people can do things that can be pointers. But the only place that we know who we are is in that third layer, the layer of spirit and stillness. Stillness is how we access it emotionally, acknowledging what's there. It's how we get deeper. And then I love there's many ways to do this, but visualization's a good go-to, I think. And some people are, okay, so why are people somewhat resistant to this, finding who they really are in that space, and going into that room and seeing and how they feel and qualities? People are so resistant to that too, because it feels so uncomfortable, because people are like, wait, aren't I creating that? Aren't I not the one that's creating that? It's like, we're definitely kind of creating, we're using, the nature of our spirit is that of a co-creator. And so we have to create that space to invite God into it, to reveal things to us. We have to create that space. We have to be in that space and create it to some degree to have the light come in. We're just setting the stage to invite holiness or truth in. That's our responsibility to do that. There's this great spiritual book called At One Mint by Thomas McConkie, and he talks about his journey from meditation to, discovering spiritual truths. And I love one of the things that he said. He said, the point is, by connecting to wholeness first, or our spirit first, wholeness itself will motivate you, not fear and lack. Okay, so another fear that people have, well, if I let go of this anxiety, or if I let go of this shame, isn't that's really motivating me in my life? Like, if I let go of that, am I just not going to be motivated anymore? And we kind of talked about that a little bit, but anxiety and shame, it only has like a very, is that like, okay, so shame, as an example, is like, I make a mistake and I just feel horrible about myself. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta step up. I gotta do better. I gotta like really work 4 extra hours tonight, or really make up for this. It's like, is that going to motivate you temporarily? It's like, maybe, but it leads to burnout, and it can only last for a certain amount of time. It only provides temporary motivation. But when we know who we are from a place of wholeness first, we see this truth that, oh my gosh, like, I am powerful down there. I am whole. And I am enough already. You don't have to hate yourself forward anymore, is what he says. And I really think that's a beautiful saying. Why does shame and anxiety not work for long-term motivation? Because the very act of shame, I think a good example, it's like hiking with heavy rocks in your backpack. It's like, if you're hiking with your friend and your backpack weighs 100 pounds and their backpack only weighs 10 pounds, and you have the same muscle mass and equal body and whatever, with that 100 pounds, you're like, okay, I have way more weight than my friend. I'm going to just hit it so much harder. I'm going to really like just push myself. you're going to be able to push yourself, and you might even push yourself harder for them in the beginning. But as the journey goes, it doesn't matter how much you try to push yourself, you are just going to like not be able to maintain it. And you're going to be laying, it's like the tortoise and the hare. You know, you're going to be laying on the side, gasping for air. Like your body's going to give out. Your spirit or your emotional state can only hold so much. It only has so much energy. You're not like, yeah. So meanwhile, your friend who only has the 10 pounds is just consistently, has balance and is making their way up the mountain. And obviously they're going to beat you by a full day or whatever. So I think that's just one little thing that comes to my mind. Buddhism really does an amazing job teaching this principle of like the wholeness of, you will find this wholeness and this peace. A lot of times, I think most common thing that people feel when they go to this place of their spirit is they feel this peace. And remember, we can't create peace. We can't create it. So anytime peace arrives, or we experience peace, it is always trying to tell us of the truth of something. And if you really listen to the peace and what it's trying to tell you when you go into your spirit, it can be telling you many things, but one of the truths it's trying to tell you is like, this is you, and this is and you are whole, and you are pure. And you're not trying to change yourself to become more whole. You already are. You are trying to integrate this impure person with the purity so that you can just consistently receive more light and knowledge and understanding to use that to help others and to gain even more light. And so it's this acquisition of light and truth. It fills our soul. We just grow brighter and brighter, is the goal. I want to just wrap up with just kind of a bonus question. And I want to talk about something called confirmation bias that I just think is really helpful to get out of like shame or anxiety, of this loop of shame or anxiety that we might be in. Okay, so what is confirmation bias? It's a therapy term that's so unrelatable. Well, I think I'll just share an example to so we don't get too textbook with this. I think anxiety, just an example with anxiety. Let's say somebody has a fear of has this deep fear of getting sick. And every day for 100 days, they have this fear and anxiety that they're going to get sick. And one day they finally do get sick. And then they say to themselves, see, my anxiety is right. It is accurate. It tells me, it warns me of danger. It tells me of things to come so I can be prepared. This is a good example of confirmation bias, is when we already believe something and we are looking for things to confirm what we believe, whether they be false or true. So the danger of this is we are trying to see anxiety for what it is. Now, okay, so what is anxiety? The core element of anxiety is actually our spirit trying to tell us that the way that we're viewing something is false. That believing that I'm going to get sick or having this fear of getting sick or whatever I'm viewing something in a way that's false. Like that's not based on any truth or reality. And then when it happens, I'm like, see, it is true. So the danger of that is that helps us become attached to, that helps us believe that the anxiety is actually helping us when it actually is hurting us. So, okay, what is the truth then? Well, anxiety is only warning us of danger if we're actually in live danger from a bear or whatever. Then it's biological danger. Awesome. Anxiety is great for that. But anxiety has now turned into a deception of the mind, or Satan trying to convince us that something is true when it isn't. So I'm going to get sick today. If there's no evidence behind that, so I'm holding on to a thought that isn't true. Anxiety is my spirit trying to tell me that it's basically rejecting that. Okay. So it's like false view alarm, false view alarm. We talked about this on the podcast before, but it's just a helpful reminder to know that, remember, intuition never comes through the avenue of anxiety, ever. God or the universe does not give us the spirit of fear or anxiety, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So it's a really powerful verse in the Bible because intuition does not come through that. So, well, what if my body or my spirit is trying to tell me trying to warn me of danger? Well, that comes through a different avenue that usually, we feel like a knot in our stomach. It comes with clarity. It's not confusing. And it comes up, we just know something is off, and we know, that's more intuition. But anxiety is this buzzing, and it's confusing and takes us out of our state. And so, anyways, just a reminder for that. We want to be really aware of confirmation bias, that we're not looking for things to be true that are not. I'll wrap up with this. They did this really interesting study with smoking, where they interviewed a bunch of people that just started smoking cigarettes, and they asked them the question, like, hey, do you believe smoking is bad for you? And they were like, well, yeah, of course it is. Like, it causes cancer, all this stuff. And they're like, okay, so like 90% of people said that like smoking was bad for them that were starting. 2 years later, they interviewed the same people, and then they asked them the same question. And they were these people, all these people they interviewed were continuing to smoke 2 years later, even though they believed it was bad for them. And then they asked them the question again, like, hey, do you believe smoking is bad for you? And the answers were like a complete reversal on the other side. 90% of people are like, well, no, like it's over, like, done. Like, it's really not that bad, whatever. So we learned something really powerful from this study. This is an old study, that like usually what we believe translates to how we act. Like, if I believe smoking is not bad for me, I'm usually not going to smoke. But if I start to act differently than what I believe, then my actions actually start to change my beliefs. Actions have the power to change what we believe. Can be a good and a bad thing. I just wanted to share this in connection to like the theme of today. We're talking about worth and knowing who you are. To some degree, it doesn't matter if you believe that you have worth or not. Like, obviously we want you to, but if you begin to have sincerity with taking action and trying to cultivate this experience, it doesn't matter if you believe you don't have worth or that you're worthless or whatever. That's irrelevant. If you actually have an experience where you feel worth, and you start to open that up more and start to spend time in nature and let nature heal you, or you spend time visualizing and feeling your spirit, these experiences begin to change what you believe about yourself. Okay, so the power of, even though you are struggling emotionally, even though you are struggling mentally, how important it is to seek a spiritual connection and to seek healing from a spiritual source. We do not heal ourselves. We are dependent on this great healing hand, and whatever you believe that is, it's a very real thing. I have seen it in my own life. I see it all the time, especially on these retreats that we do. It's very obvious that there's something playing out. There's a spirit, there's a force that is quite literally healing people in moments. And so take the time to engage or to try to cultivate this, what we talked about today, And I also want to put a plug in. If you don't connect with this layer practice, I want you to take time and just go and be still in nature and not think about anything. Just let yourself feel this nurturing power of nature. This is the Heavenly Mother trying to hold you in her arms and to say, it's okay. And you're going to be okay. And there's a real healing, not just that, but there's a real healing force to it. It's beautiful. Please, if you have any questions, feedback, topics that you want us to discuss as we move forward, go to our website, put them on the contact page. We'd love to incorporate that. Thank you.
If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.